Hello, thank you all for coming. I'm Carmel, and tonight I'm here to talk to you about the importance of life satisfaction in youth. I'll start with a little bit about me. I'm originally from Vancouver, Canada. I've been in Guernsey for 14 years, and I'm currently employed as a psychological therapist here at Secondary Care at the PEH. I'm going to start by talking to you about something known as subjective well-being. I'd like to show you another thing known as the dual factor model of mental health, and then talk to you about the importance of life satisfaction. I'd also like to present to you something known as the broaden and build theory of positive emotion, and if there's time, cover a few tools and tips and talk a little bit about positive psychology interventions. So what is subjective well-being? Well, subjective well-being is a definition of happiness as being composed of both cognitive and emotional aspects. The cognitive component is life satisfaction. The emotional components are positive and negative affect or mood. Subjective well-being is considered to be life satisfaction plus positive affect minus negative affect. Life satisfaction is the key indicator of happiness and well-being. This is primarily because it is considered to be the most stable component. As we can imagine, positive and negative affect or mood tend to fluctuate. And because of this, it is the most commonly assessed indicator of happiness. Life satisfaction is measured globally, or often among young people, across multiple important domains, such as school, friends, family, and self. So why is subjective well-being important? Well, research has shown that low levels of subjective well-being are associated with inferior outcomes for youth across the board. For example, it predicts low life satisfaction and the extent of mental disorder later in life. Whereas positive subjective well-being, when fostered, promotes and protects subsequent positive outcomes. That is, it ensures well-being later in life. Also, it's helpful to keep in mind that observed feelings, that is, of sadness or joy, not always are a reflection of satisfaction with life. And because of this, low well-being is often overlooked by negative indicators of illness, such as depression scales. Important here too is to keep in mind that mental health is more than the absence of mental illness. It is more than being symptom-free. A good way to display the importance of this is to consider the dual factor model of mental health. The dual factor model is an assessment of positive indicators, or promotes an assessment of positive indicators of wellness alongside traditional negative indicators of illness. Here we have the 4 quadrants of the dual factor model of mental health. In the top right-hand corner, we have the complete mental health group. These are young people who have low symptomology, or mental health issues, and high subjective well-being. We refer to the people in this group as being mentally healthy, well-adjusted, and to have positive mental health. They are often contrasted with the troubled. They are the opposite group. They have high symptomology and low subjective well-being. We often refer to this group as being distressed or mentally unhealthy. The less identifiable is the top left-hand corner, which is known as being the symptomatic but content. They have high symptomology, but they also display high levels of well-being. Equally difficult to identify are the vulnerable in the bottom right-hand corner. They have low subjective well-being, and they also have low symptomology. We often refer to this group as being dissatisfied, at risk, or asymptomatic yet discontent, in contrast to the symptomatic but content group, which we often refer to as being ambivalent or externally maladjusted. Research on the dual factor model of mental health has shown that those in the complete mental health group, when compared to the vulnerable, have higher academic success, physical health, superior social relationships, stronger self-concepts, and flourish emotionally. In contrast, the vulnerable, compared to the complete mental health group, they have poor academic functioning, worse physical health, lower self-concepts, and poor social relationships. The troubled, they have the poorest outcomes of all 4 groups. This is the group in the lower left-hand corner. They suffer with a host of social problems, including peer victimization and diminished social rapport. As we noted, the less identifiable are the symptomatic but content. They are suffering with mental health problems, such as internalizing symptoms. However, their functioning is comparable to those in the top right-hand corner, the complete mental health group. Because of this, they are often overlooked by problem-focused models of mental health. So why is this really important, identifying these groups? Well, many young people are unhappy and dissatisfied. For example, a study by Hubner et al. In 2000, this is an American study, they found that overall life satisfaction of 11% of 5,544 children surveyed fell below the neutral point, with 7% indicating a terrible or unhappy existence. Similar findings have been reported in the UK. For example, the Good Childhood Report, released in 2012, found that 1 in 11% of children, that is 9%, in the UK were unhappy with their lives. To get an idea of the kind of numbers we're talking about, this equates to 500,000 children aged 8 to 15 with low well-being at any given time. Important to keep in mind here is that well-being declines with the onset of adolescence. Again, the Good Childhood Report found 4% of children aged 8 with low well-being compared to 14% of adolescents aged 15. Also important too, especially in living in a place such as Guernsey, where we benefit with high environmental and social resources, is that those children in such environments do not always necessarily display high levels of life satisfaction. And because of this, they are unable to protect themselves from the negative effects of stress and the development of psychopathological problems. So it's important here, I think, to talk about the impact of stressful life events to get an idea of the downward spiraling effect that they can have. For example, research by McKnight et al., this is 2002, they found that the presence of increased stressful life events related to increased levels of negative externalizing, this is behavior problems, and internalizing anxiety and depression. Kim et al., 2003, showed that during development, stressful life events predict later internalizing and externalizing behavior and increased levels of mental disorder, which in turn predict increased stressful life experiences. As you can see, this is a maladaptive cycle. The more stressful life events, the more internalized and externalized behavior, and the increased level of disorder, which then increases further stressful life experiences. Ash and Hubner also found that frequent experiences of negative life events among adolescents is related to decreased perceptions of control of their lives, which in turn is related to decreased life satisfaction. The more they have negative life events, the more they don't feel in control, and the lower their well-being. However, alternate research has shown, or similar research has shown, that life satisfaction can act as a protective factor. Again, Suldo and Hubner's research showed that those with high life satisfaction were less likely to develop later externalizing, and in this study that was delinquent and aggressive behaviors, following stressful life events 1 year later. That is, that high life satisfaction protected the students from developing problem behaviors in the face of stress. McKnight et al., 2002, also found that the impact of stressful life events on internalized, this again, as we recall, anxiety and depression behavior, is less significant for those with increased life satisfaction. Also, longitudinal research has demonstrated that students' levels of subjective well-being predicts their later academic adjustment. Also, you can't get too much of a good thing when it comes to life satisfaction and well-being. Research has also found that youth with extremely high levels of life satisfaction benefit from increased adaptive psychosocial functioning, interpersonal and social functioning, academic success, and positive behavior. And they have this display of these positive attributes over and above those who have average levels of life satisfaction. Increased life satisfaction is also associated with multiple school-related variables, such as school satisfaction, teacher support, perceived academic achievement, competency, and self-efficacy. There's a huge body of literature that demonstrates the correlates, both positive and negative, of life satisfaction. What I thought I would do is just highlight here a few of the most important correlates. On the positive side, we have extroversion and social self-efficacy, which I'll talk a little bit more about in a few minutes. Self-esteem, interpersonal relationship, exercise, and something known as SEAs, or structured extracurricular activities. These are after-school activities such as sport, and health, and that includes both physical and mental health. Academic achievement, intrinsic values and goals, social and parental support, and particular strengths of character, including hope, love, gratitude, and enthusiasm. Negative correlates include neuroticism, anxiety, depression, substance abuse and use, extrinsic values and goals, doing things for external reward, violence, including aggression, and loneliness. And interestingly, loneliness is positively correlated with anxiety, that's state anxiety, social anxiety, depression, and public self-consciousness. So some of the most important findings there are here. I'd like to start with self-efficacy. Self-efficacy is the personal belief in what one can do or is capable of doing. This is one of the most consistent predictors of life satisfaction among young people, that, their belief in what they can do. Also very important and often overlooked is research into hope. Hope research shows, or hope, psychologically defined, is the perception that one can formulate strategies towards and reach desired goals. Hope research has found that adolescent levels of hope are positively associated with personal adjustment, grade point average, structured extracurricular activities, and negatively associated with substance abuse and behavior problems. Also, similar to the buffering effect of life satisfaction, research has shown that those with high hope have greater life satisfaction following stressful life events than those with low hope. Important too to children's well-being is parenting style. Of parenting styles that are possible, authoritative parenting style has been found to be the most important. This is a parenting style that involves social support involvement with your children, strictness and supervision, but also psychological autonomy granting, and is often contrasted with being authoritative or overly permissive as far as parenting styles go. Important too is family functioning. Relationship with parents and perceived family functioning is more important than family status, that is whether people are married or divorced, or disruptive family events. So some important findings of literature on a few of these. For instance, Fogel et al. In 2002 found that adolescents' perceptions of their ability to be competent in social settings led to increased sociability or extroversion, which in turn led to greater life satisfaction, as you can see in comparison to the downward spirals of negative, stressful life events. We have an upward spiral here of feelings of being competent, leading to increased sociability, therefore leading to greater life satisfaction. Research by Soldo and Huebner of authoritative parenting style showed that the more adolescents perceive their parents to be monitoring their activities, providing them with emotional and instrumental support, and encouraging them to express individually and think independently, the higher their life satisfaction. Much research has also found that social support by parents is the most important factor in youth. It's life satisfaction. The more they perceive support, the less they internalize and become anxious and depressed and externalize their behavior, the more they have life satisfaction. I'd also like to draw your attention to positive emotions. As I mentioned, the absence of psychopathology or mental distress is correlated but not equivalent to the presence of well-being. Further, new scientific research on neuroplasticity suggests that positive emotional states may trigger lasting, durable changes in the structure and the function of the brain. Specifically, they have found that positive emotions need to outweigh negative emotions 3-to-1 to have a lasting, enduring, positive effect. Important in this research is Barbara Fredrickson's broaden and build theory of positive emotions. This theory suggests that positive emotions such as love, joy, and contentment broaden our awareness and momentary thought processes and behaviors, and therefore facilitating creativity, exploration, and interest, which over time build personal, social, and psychological resources and skills. Momentary experiences of emotions that may build into self-perpetuating emotional systems, producing lasting, effective dispositions. As she's pointing out here, a positive emotion lets us look out instead of in, increases our creativity and exploration of what's out there, and then we learn new skills and we broaden our personal resources. On the other hand, negative emotions, such as sadness, anxiety, or fear, they narrow our awareness and momentary thought processes and behaviors, such as make us feel often like we want to fight or flight, escape or attack. Thinking about a negative downward spirals, a couple of them we've already looked at, but for example, depression, you can become depressed, you then therefore can't think of any way out, it's narrowing your awareness, you can't see options, and you don't feel like you have any way of getting out of your situation, you have depleted personal resources and skills. Just a little bit of important information and some tools and tips. Many factors we've been talking about tonight cast a very long shadow. For example, friendship. We didn't talk about friendship, but friendship in adolescence is also a protective factor. Research by Marion et al. In 2013 showed that negative effects of peer rejection for those with at least one friend aged 15 predicted low life satisfaction 30 years later. Similarly, substance abuse disorder in youth leads directly to low life satisfaction and poor personal outcomes later in life. I would like to suggest and promote, like the dual factor model of mental health, that we include measures of life satisfaction in assessment of mental health. As I mentioned, there are global and domain-specific measures available. The importance of this, as highlighted by the dual factor model of mental health, is shown primarily by the identification or the missing identification of those in the symptomatic but content and the vulnerable categories, that is, those with high well-being and high symptomology and low well-being and low symptomology. Also, there is something known as hedonic adaptation. This is when happiness levels adapt. It's something that will happen. It's like any event that we have. It's exciting at first, and then our excitement over it tends to go back down again. In order for us to continue to flourish, or to do as Barbara Fredrickson suggests, we need to continue to broaden and build and engage with positive emotion and maintain our happiness levels. One of the ways in which we can promote children in doing this is something known as positive psychology interventions. Practitioners or teachers or others can apply targeted activities which can increase and foster subjective well-being among young people. This approach is in line with proactive resource-building approaches to mental health services. Such interventions are descriptive rather than prescriptive. Prescriptive being the do not smoke campaigns, descriptive being focusing on sort of a bottom-up approach instead of a top-down. Positive psychology interventions come in what they have considered to be single component interventions. Some of these we might know of, such as mindfulness and kindness. There's many more: gratitude, forgiveness, as I mentioned. There are hope interventions. And there are multi-component positive psychology interventions. This is organizations or others who integrate several positive psychology concepts and vary activities from one to the other. I know a lot of the schools locally are doing this. Many of them have been recently doing the 40 Acts of Kindness. They've been doing mindfulness, and they've also been doing gratitude as well. The importance of engaging them in these types of behaviors and activities, as we mentioned, is to promote and foster positive emotion and to protect well-being levels. It's suggested by recent research, that we could shift the mean of the mental health spectrum. What we have here on the left-hand side, produced by the University of Cambridge, is what's known as the mental health spectrum. It goes from mental disorder to languishing, the main group there being moderate, those with moderate mental health, sort of symptom-free group, to the flourishing group, which is at the very end. If we could get more engagement with flourishing and positive emotion and protecting and engaging in promoting life satisfaction, it is believed that we would effectively be shifting the mean of the mental health spectrum towards positive mental health. That is, that there would be a higher percentage of individuals in the flourishing category and fewer individuals in the languishing and mental disorder categories. Thank you for your time. I have here a list of my references. If anybody would like to contact me for any of these articles, I'd be happy to supply them.